What are you doing? What are you even doing? Stealing dreams?
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy.
Welcome to Living with Jonathan and Katy.
I almost harmonized, but I didn't. Anyways.
No, you didn't.
It's okay.
How have you been, Katy?
I have been great. I moved into a mansion.
Which is where we're sitting right now,
Yes.
recording this podcast in Katy French's new mansion.
As we know, the aesthetic is Gay Palm Springs.
Wonderful.
It's really an oasis. There's trees. There's foliage.
It's the perfect apartment to overdose in.
Oh, completely.
So amazing.
I have a robe. I have an overdose robe. It's satin.
Oh,
Yeah.
can
for
I
pills.
once christen it with my overdose? My overdose bile?
Yeah, I'll overdose and then you overdose.
Yeah. I'll overdose on poppers. What do you overdose on? Essential oils?
Carbs, honey. Just kidding.
God.
But yeah, I am living. I feel that I have achieved peak white womanness.
Yeah.
I've been DIYing. I told myself in my 30s I would never DIY again, and then cut to me like crying at 3 a.m. trying to like make tassels.
It's beautiful. You've done a beautiful job. I wish this wasn't a podcast. I wish we could show everyone.
Yeah, show
but
everybody.
You want to know why? None of you guys watched our web series, and so we had no financial incentive to continue it, and we had to turn to a podcast.
And
in order
our
to keep
Israeli
going.
backers dropped out.
Absolutely. So the moral of the story is all of you guys are complicit.
Yeah, you're all complicit in our failure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have the new apartment. It's getting more and more cute, and I just am like, could not be happier. Part of me is like, I just feel like abandoning my life and just staying in this apartment.
Honestly, it's just beautiful. Like I was going to suggest that we like maybe go out for a jaunt, and then I was like, fuck no, this is just amazing. It's
How
just
can
so
you
much
leave?
space.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's a floor here.
There's a pink couch. I just ordered a Dalmatian fur and covered a bench in it. It's gorgeous. It's chic. You wouldn't
There's a
think of
lamp
it.
here.
I've learned that Dalmatian print is actually, it's a neutral print.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes with everything. And also, I really will tell people that it's made of puppies. Because that is my Cruella de Vil essence. God, that bench, I'm sorry, guys, you can't see it, but this bench looks great even in the living room.
It's just an evil white lady's Dalmatian bench. That's what it looks like.
Don't worry about it.
Well, you should worry. I'm in a bulking journey right now, as I've talked your head off, but I'm going to talk it off again.
We're nearing the end of the year.
Yes.
And you have decided to bulk through
I've decided to become
Christmas.
big. I want to be like strongman big. I want to lift heavy, and I just started doing that.
What made you want to be that?
Well, about a year ago, I wanted to be that, and it was working in the summer, but then I got an anal injury, and then I had to stop, and then I became depressed, and then I became happy again because I was in a relationship, and so then it just kind of derailed. Now I'm in a point of...
Can't wait for that part of your biopic.
That's called the montage.
Yes.
And so now I'm in a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to get my health back on, but I don't want to be skinny because you remember me when I was skinny. I was deathly ill.
We said you were AIDS skinny.
Yes. And
you did look gorgeous. I mean, I'm just saying, you looked...
For an AIDS victim, my skin was
looked
flawless. But I also don't think it's natural for me to be that thin. And part of me being that thin was due to of course, like bike riding and delivering everywhere and being super poor, but also being on prep because it would make me sick and like lose appetite.
Oh.
So yeah.
Can straight ladies take prep? No.
If you want liver and kidney damage.
Too late, honey.
We need to create a segment called Samantha's Corner, in
Yes.
which Samantha...
I will suddenly start Samantha Jonesing from Sex and the City.
It's a verb now.
It is.
Yeah. So now I just want to be able to eat because I love eating, and I want to be a thick dude, and I want to have like big arms and big tits and big like thighs and everything, but healthy, strong, muscular, but not too muscular. I still want some fat over the muscle. I think you guys know what body type I'm referring to. I'm getting titted right now, which is the part of your bulking and lifting journey where your male breasts are now starting to develop into pecs, but it's in the middle, so it's like pecs covered in fat, so they kind of look like rock hard tits.
Yeah.
So that's me. I'm titted right now,
I'm living for the tit.
I'm horny because of it. Yeah.
My only feeling, you've been sending me a lot of inspiration photos for your bulking journey, and I totally respect those. However, if you start becoming an Instagram titted man, if you start a gay Instagram account, we cannot be friends anymore.
Okay, but Katy, if in a year or two from now, because this will be a fitness journey in which if I ever reach the point that those pictures I sent you, when I reach that point, it will be at the very latest a year from now. It's going to take a long time to get to that point. You're right. But if my career is going as bad as it's still going now, would you hate me if I became an Instagram gay to get money? Like, what if I just posted sexy pictures of me in jeans and I'm like super muscular and I get paid, you know, like $1,600 a month for that?
So long as there's a yacht based, like, or a yacht or a daddy involved.
Yeah.
As long as I can wear like a caftan on a yacht.
Yeah.
Then I would love that.
Well, if you guys don't want to see me being Instagram gay and be insufferable, then I guess you have no choice but to hire me in comedy. And so
please save our friendship by making us successful in comedy.
Yeah.
It's such a nightmare. But we do have our first guest.
We do have our first guest.
Very exciting. We talk about some things that make me deeply uncomfortable, but I think I did well.
You did very well.
Yeah.
You were only just a little bit judgmental. No, I'm kidding. Not at all.
But we're talking today to Steve Hernandez, who has had quite a journey.
Yes.
He went from being a evangelical pastor to a polyamorous queer comedian.
Yeah, he is someone who we've known he's one of the oldest friends of mine in comedy. I've known him since I was like 18 and started comedy. And he is someone who's like always been supportive of me doing comedy, being gay. He himself just came out as queer. You know, I hope he forgives me because like years ago when I was like 20, I told him like I almost hooked up with a guy who looked like you, but I didn't because he looked too much like you. And he took that as such a slight. And he, to this day, will still mention it at shows in front of people. But Steve is very cute, very funny.
Yeah. So enjoy our interview with Steve Hernandez.
You guys know I'm out there dating, having a good old time. My later years, I'm getting into Latinas. But previously, I've been into white women. Nothing fancy. Not like some of you white women in here. Oh, put me on TV. Get the fuck out of here with your tan skin. Nah. I like my white women pasty, a little freckly, huh? She looks like she knows her way around the New Testament a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? Translucent nipples, SPF 100. Her dad's the president of something. Not too pretty in the face either. That's where a lot of guys go wrong. I like the kind of girls with beauty that doesn't fade, okay? I like my women handsome. Do you know what I mean when I say handsome, huh? Oh, I'm gonna tell you. I like them so handsome when they do this with their bangs, I know what their brother looks like. That's handsome, okay? It's like, Timmy, what the fuck are you doing here? Oh shit, it's Melissa and it's morning time. That's handsome, all right?
Welcome, Steve.
You know, it's funny. I guess I've come out as queer as just by calling myself, but I've been talking about having sex with guys for years now, right? I don't want to sell out that part of me, and I really don't want to sell out being Latino either. So I've been very hesitant.
Latino?
Latino. Because I just, you know, this fucking industry wants to like grab onto anything and just sell it to someone. And I just feel bad about all of that stuff. But yeah, I have been calling myself queer lately, which comes in handy on like Twitter fights. When that tweet I was talking about, I met recently, we talked about a little bulldog lesbian Latina. And then in her Yelp review, I posted this thing. She wrote a Yelp review about me. And she says 2 times in the thing, butthurt. She said the stupid bartender was butthurt. But people started responding. And John Levinstein, who's a very funny comedy writer, wrote back like, Steve, were you really butthurt? Or how butthurt were you? And I was like, I wasn't as butthurt as right after my divorce. But John, seriously, still butthurt. And we were saying that. And then some white person, I don't know if it was a man or a woman or someone. So on Twitter said like, do you guys know that butthurt is a derogatory thing towards like a gay man? I was like, yeah, read the review. This lesbian woman said it. It's not, we're just joking about that. And then he goes, or I believe it's the guy. And then he goes, and little Latina lesbian bulldog, don't you think that's a bit harsh? And this is when I cashed in everything. I was like, listen, man, I'm a queer Latinx guy. Why don't you save your lectures for your white friends? Yeah, oh, smooth.
Well, let's go back to the beginning for you. You were an evangelical pastor.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got to that point. How did you become a pastor?
I just grew up.
What was your path?
I grew up in this church, Faith Community Church in West Covina. My family, I was born and we lived in like Lincoln Heights, LA, Eagle Rock area, Highland Park. And then we moved to West Covina when I was 5. So I went to kindergarten in West Covina. And then a neighbor woman, I think when I was 6 or 7, started like taking us to vacation Bible school, me and my little brother.
And that's a trip. That's a fun vacation.
Yeah, well, no, you make shit.
Sure,
I remember
crafting.
puppet shows and stuff. So why places have VBS, the whole family got looped in. That's why churches have VBS.
Childcare.
It's childcare, but then they try to trick the whole family into coming, and it worked. And so we went to that church. It was Faith Community then. I would wager that it was like maybe 500, 600 people at the time. And then I grew up in that church. And that church when I left was at about 13,000, 14,000 people.
That's so crazy. And did that mean growing up? Did that mean every single Sunday? Like what did it mean to grow up in that church?
As soon as we'd go to church, they would have 2 services growing up as a kid, and like a Sunday school type of thing. So we would have to. I think we would go to the main service, or we just went to 2 different child things or whatever. But then in middle school, that's when like everything really starts to take over. It becomes co-ed. There's tons of babes. You go to youth group. You start going to summer camps. They start doing activities. And like I don't even think I would have ever gone to the beach as a junior high or a high schooler if I wasn't in youth group, because my family just didn't do that. They were just getting by. And like, my dad was abusive and angry and an alcoholic, and he got better like when I was like 13 or 14, but he was just a dry drunk at that point. So it was just still like home life was bad, but this thing was always good and fun. And so, we go to youth group on Wednesdays. I was in leadership at that point. So there'd be Sunday. We would go to church at 9, youth group at 11, then have some kind of meeting, then an activity at 7, like everything.
It's an all day thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a blast. I loved it. And I like still am very grateful to the church, that church specifically, for making me fall in love with like writing and the Word of God and everything and thinking, because we are always deciphering all these verses and everything. So basically the same place I used to write jokes now is the same place I used to get sermons and think about you're always thinking about theories and philosophies and trying to back up those points with the Bible and everything. But when I graduated high school, I kind of dicked around for like a year. I was going to go to the Army. I tried to join, and then I was a lot less fat too, and I was like pretty good shape too because I was the wrestling captain. So I went to the Army. I went to go get sworn in. I went to the Bonaventure Hotel.
What?
Like, yeah, that's what they do. That's where they do it. They are like, oh yeah, we'll take you to the Bonaventure. So I like, you go to the
wine
Bonaventure.
And dine.
Yeah, it is.
That was where my senior prom was. No big deal.
So I went to the Bonaventure. I slept there. We would get up early. You get shots and you fucking go to get sworn into the Army. But I was like, they said I was too fat. They said I was like 5 or 10 pounds too overweight, or the fat percentage was not enough.
Wow. So 10 pounds saved your life, first of all.
I mean, it would have been a completely different life. So I didn't go to the Army. And then they're like, all right, we'll come back a couple months. You'll lose this 5 pounds or whatever. But in that time, I went to help, like, we would go to the Navajo Indian Reservation to run a VBS. And so I went with them to there, and then they decided, like, the leaders of the youth ministry, like, we're going to start an internship program. And so they took me to Chicago, me and another woman named Corey, and we became the first interns. And after that first year of the internship, the junior high pastor left. He became the full-time worship pastor, and then I became a junior high pastor under my boss at 19 years old, 20 years old. And then the next year, high school pastor left, and then the next year, the guy who ran the whole thing left. So I ran the whole thing.
Did they absolutely love you?
Yeah, I did. And it's important too to remember that this stuff too. Whenever I talk about being pastor, a big part of it is having like adult volunteer staff. So like over the whole student ministries thing, that's college, high school, and junior high, we probably had 50 adult volunteer staff. It was like really fun. They were mostly like my friends or like pretty close to my age or whatever. There was a couple of older people. I feel so bad for these older people now. Like they were like sweet Christian people because we would do crazy shit. Like I would bring a fish and like answer a question, a raw fish, and then we would pitch it to somebody, and the kid would like hit it with a bat.
What?
And the fish would fly apart?
Yeah, it would just be funny and tell all these stories, and then I would try to save their souls at the end of it.
Do you think being a pastor did prepare you for stand-up?
Dude, I would come up with I would usually come up with like a 4-week series and then take a week or 2 off, but I would talk to 150 kids, 200 kids every Sunday for like 45 minutes.
Whoa.
So you're doing Basically an hour, almost an hour a week.
Yeah. So a lot of funny stories, some Bible reading, preaching.
Yeah.
But I mean, if anything, that's like just being on stage in front of people like that has to do. I don't think they're the same necessarily. I think it's way easier to be a pastor because they were stuck there and they were kids and everything.
And they already love your material. You know that, so you're fine. Can I ask, growing up in that church, what were you taught about sex?
Just the premarital sex was bad. Masturbation was bad because you were lusting after someone.
Mm-hmm. Did you masturbate a lot?
Of course, I masturbated as much as anybody.
And did you tell your little pastor Mike or whoever? Who was it?
No, I didn't have a pastor Mike.
Well, who was it? Tell me his name.
I never really had any. It was just a given. It's so funny.
Tell us his name.
In middle school and high school and stuff, you would do prayer requests. You would sit in a little group and do prayer requests. And everybody
was always praying for your dick.
No, in middle school, everyone's just like, no one's gonna say I'm praying to masturbate, right. But it's like everyone knows, like, this is my struggle. Like a 14-year-old, you would even talk like that too. Like, that's my big sin. That's the thing, is that I'm jacking off thinking about girls. And but they would have this thing called an unspoken, like something personal you didn't want to talk about. You'd be like, I have an unspoken, and everybody always knew, oh, this kid's jacking off too much.
I found out because I grew up in Orange County with evangelicals, and there was like a cool boy in school, and he would always like hug all the girls, and then he kind of iced me, and he was like a really popular fun boy, and I felt so rejected by him, or like, oh my god, he like hates me. And then I found out later that he told his little fellowship group that I really made him struggle.
How did you find that out?
Another person told me. This is like a decade later, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
God.
I wore a lot of volleyball shorts at the time.
Oh, and that big ass, that big white ass.
Praise God. The struggle is real.
No, I loved it in Christian school when guys would get pantsed and then they would grab the boxers by accident, and so they'd be on the like field or the track or whatever, and they get pants and they're like dingling was wrangling out.
We were just talking about that on the Male Gaze this week. It was so funny that pantsing was a thing.
Oh
yeah,
it sounds so
popular,
crazy,
right?
Like if an adult did that to another adult, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
it's assault.
Sex was always something to me where I was like, I just didn't buy into it. I like never did. I would preach to like my friends. It's so funny. I remember in high school, like being a sophomore or something, telling my friends in like the wrestling team, like, dude, you can't be having premarital sex. You can't be having premarital sex. And the first opportunity I had to have sex, I was fucking knuckles deep into that shit. Yeah. And the first, it's like laugh out loud funny. Like I was like, yeah, of course I'm having sex. So I never really felt bad. I mean, there was time I just never felt bad about it because I thought, if you love the person like God is love, it's like not a big deal.
Right.
God is sex, basically.
Yeah. Well, I just would not accept the guilt that came with that.
So you actually always had that shield. You weren't ever bothered.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that for whatever reason I don't have any Christian guilt or Catholic guilt. I think guilt, and I'd heard from like Christian teachers too, and I do believe this to this day, that guilt is just like, it's a useless emotion, and it's also very prideful too, because it means that within the Christian context, it means that you don't believe Jesus really died for your sins, that his blood really didn't forgive you or cover your sins.
Oh, interesting.
And so even now in my life, I really don't feel guilty about things. I either change them or accept them for what they are. There are instances, of course, where I'm like, sheesh, sometimes I think about them. There's some things I think about every day where I'm like, I really hate that I did that, and I hate myself for that. But it's also, I think of those things as like talismans where I hold on to them to remember, don't be that way again. So, but to me, I don't think that's guilt. That's just, I hold on to them to remember that what a piece of shit I can be and not to be that way.
Yeah.
Now, during your early life around this time, did you realize your attraction to men, or did that come later?
No, I always, it would like, I'd be like masturbating or something, and then I would think of myself maybe as in the woman position sometimes. Or I don't think I could ever like really envision like fucking guys or anything like that.
And you were taught, I'm assuming, that homosexuality is an abomination.
Yes, and I don't think when I think about it, I don't really understand when I started doing it if I like what I thought about it, like when I started making those calls and stuff and wanted to hook up. I think I wanted to just see if I was gay or.
At what age was that again? When you started
22, 23, something like that.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to see if I was gay or whatever. And so I remember I would probably be drunk. I think most of the time I was drunk. And then I would just hook up with these guys like randomly. They would come to my house, or I'd go to their house or something. And I always found it like sexually charged, and I liked it, but that's why still even right now I don't understand like how queer I am, or the idea of being a romantic with a man. Like I'm open to that, but I haven't really experienced that yet, and so. Even that's why I would hesitate to call myself bi.
Right.
That's why I like queer as a coverall. It just means I don't really have any rules, and I don't like play by any else.
And you don't ever need to quantify it. You just
I know that's
what
I know that's what some people say, but I don't like these fucking people who try to say they're bi and they haven't even hooked up with anybody.
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I just that's what I mean is that I know I don't technically have it to quantify it, but for myself, I am just confused, or I feel like the jury is out about that stuff. But like I said, I'm open to everything, so I don't give a fuck. Yeah,
but you've sucked dick.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
it's so funny though too.
So you're not those people.
Yeah, I would like to suck dick of someone that like deserved it and genuinely like I like them too. It is so funny when
ever find
well, it just is so funny too because women say stuff like this But I've had the experience too where it's like, what's this guy, like, what are you doing? Just shut up. Let me suck your dick. I want to suck your dick. You're just going to ruin it if you say something. So women say stuff like that, and I could totally yeah, just shut the fuck up, man. How do you do it? So I guess I'd thought of that as a sin too, but just kind of because the Bible said so.
Right.
And it was kind of under the umbrella of just like sex.
I didn't think of it as sex.
Okay.
I thought of homosexuality as like a different kind of sin, I think. And
a hobby.
It always bummed me out too for them because it was like, well, it's a real bummer. I thought like the only alternative was them to be like a monk or something, or like I was like, well, yeah, that's a real fucking bummer that they have this thing that they're
castle on a cliff with just a bunch of men.
And just wear a robe.
Just wear a robe.
It's very sad, but they will burn. That's what I thought.
Let your meats just jingle.
Yeah, I think for me, I just never wanted to. I'm just now saying queer and stuff, and
they will burn.
I think now I'm just saying that because I do. I do think gender, I have my other podcast, The Male Gaze, and both of you have been guests on. But I do think gender and most of this stuff is just bullshit. It's just people trying to categorize everything.
Yeah.
And so I say all of this stuff just to say, like, I want these people in Covina and regular people to know, like, whenever you're saying or if you're talking shit, you know me, I'm cool as fuck, and I can fuck. So even these guys that, I work in Covina. This is like middle America, basically, where guys will still like call each other gay or fag or something like that. Not in a mean way, just in a way where they're like, what do you mean? Fag just means stupid, but they don't mean anything. Like, they're not hateful, but I want them to know I'm that way too.
Right.
So whatever way you think of it, it's probably a little more complicated than you think.
Got it.
So you, at this point, you're about in your early 20s. Mm-hmm. You've already had experiences with men.
Yeah.
And how do you end up, and at the time you are a pastor.
There was, I think, times near the end where it kind of blurred over, like where, like the first couple of times I fucked a guy I was probably still a minister. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was like kind of checked out. I was like spiraling because I was drinking and I think at that time having sex with guys, and I couldn't drink anywhere.
Were you having sex with women too?
Yeah. Okay. I would have sex with my girlfriend at the time, and then, it all gets kind of blurred near the end. So because I'm thinking of one particular girl, but I don't think I ever really crossed over between those two. Don't get me wrong, I would have. It's not like I had any thing about that. But I just was like, this is too much. I was at a mega church, man. Mega churches are fucking businesses. And I don't even know if that's wrong I think it's wrong. I don't think Christ would approve at all.
Yeah.
But I was like having a crisis of faith because I knew there were so many things that I was sinning for one, but also there were so many things that were fucked up in this institution. Mm-hmm. I knew how much money we were bringing in. I knew our senior pastor didn't really talk to anyone. He just spoke on Sunday, and that the executive pastor, his brother, was like a real pastor. So like this other guy was a piece of shit, made a ton of money. And that I grew up in that church, and I talked to him and I worked there. And I've talked to him maybe 8 minutes, something like that.
Wow.
So I know there was like really fucked up stuff in terms of God, and that God would not have me to be in charge there. So that last bit, I think I was kind of like probably falling apart somewhat. So
this is what was the root of you kind of leaving this position and kind of leaving this world behind?
Yes, I did. I quit, and I was very good at it. So my pastor, the executive pastor, was like, "We don't think you should quit. You're very good at this, but we do think you definitely should take time off." And I just told him I was having sex with my girlfriend and drinking sometimes.
And that was your like easy pass out, basically?
Yeah, I told him. I mean, and those things were a big deal to them
right.
either. And then they were like, "All right, well, you should get out, but you need to go like rehabilitate somewhere or something. Do you want to stay here or do you want to like go somewhere?" And I was like, "I guess I'll go somewhere." And so I went to like help at an orphanage in Ecuador for like, I was supposed to be there 3 months, but I was only there for like 6 weeks.
They sent you there basically to like be like, all right.
I was just there's no
You were in
program.
crisis,
I was
yeah.
just like helping out at this orphanage, but I just went home early too because I was like I want to quit. And also at that time I was kind of like starting to date or talk to a girl, and they told me you can't have any contact with any women, and I was like talking. So when I went back, they were like mad that I went back early. And they were like, "Have you been talking to any woman?" I was like, "Yeah, I was still talking to this girl." And they're like, "I guess you really do want to quit."
How did they like make the PR announcement? Like,
Well,
did people know
this
that
is
you
something
were...
that's very fucked up about this
Okay.
too, because the Bible says that when someone's sinning, they should have to like get up, and you got to kick them out of the church, and then they should get up and like explain what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't let that happen. They just told everyone that I decided to go back to college. So, and this is what's so fucked up about all this is you don't understand. I mean, as charismatic or whatever as you think I am now, I was probably 10 times more charismatic because I had the idea of Christ behind me. So I was a zealot. So I was on fire, way funny, all this stuff. And I was leading this group of 50 adult pastors and my college class. So all these adults, and I had plans and we had goals. We were saving hundreds of kids all the time. We had all this stuff going. I'm telling you, like, so much like different like events and programs and everything working, and to just yank me out of there and to tell them, "Oh yeah, he just decided to go back to college." Like a lot of those people hated me because of that. And which easily a 22 or a 23-year-old going like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to stop doing this cuz I started to drink and I'm having sex with my girlfriend." Would make especially it would make sense to them 5 years later. Where they're like, "Oh, that was fucked up. Like he was a good guy." That was fucked up. They like kicked him out because of that thing. They would think that instead of them saying like, "Why would this guy who we put faith in and loved and everything every week tell us all these stories and everything, and he's just gone?" Like that was pretty fucked up of him to do. Which the Bible says you shouldn't do that. So I mean, that was that to me out of everything. And I'm not mad at them. I think they're bad people in their own way, and I think the business of it is very bad and evil, and God is nowhere in that. But that was the only thing where I'm like, dude, that was really fucked up.
That was the most painful thing.
They should be ashamed of themselves now about that thing.
Yeah.
And everything else, I don't give a fuck. Whatever. If you want to be rich and live in Newport Beach and then just like come into West Covina to preach and then leave again, I don't care about that stuff. I'm not here to judge you with that stuff. But that was that's a real direct sin, and that was a really fucked up thing to do to me and to those people.
So how did polyamory come into your life after you left the church?
I had a girlfriend who became my ex, my wife. But, I used to tell a story about this, but she had done, pretty early in our dating life, she told me that she had done a ton of different sex things, including all kinds of threesomes and everything like that. And she, and that like infuriated me, as a Mexican man. I thought, how could you do this to me before you met me? And I was pissed. But then after a while, which she thought she was bi at the time still. I don't think she really is, and she would probably not say she is either. But I thought then at the time, well, I guess, if she likes this stuff, then I guess we should just have like threesomes or something. But very quickly, like the idea of like trying to get someone to do a threesome with you is like awful. Like trying to get anyone to do anything. And I just felt like a creep. So I don't know what we did, but maybe after about a year we got into swinging. And so we were swingers for a while. We did that for about a year.
And how does that, like, what's the process? I don't understand the swinging. Like, you just go to a website? How does it go?
Now, yeah, they have websites and stuff. At this time, and then they kind of did then, too. We just didn't know about them. But I think one we went to was called Lifestyle Lounge. I'm sure there's other ones now. That was so long ago now. But, you go to these things, and it's like a dating website, but with couples. Mm-hmm. But mostly we would go to, there's mansion parties, and there's
it's very like Eyes Wide Shut.
I mean, it is like that. I mean, the first one we went to was crazy. You pay like $75. For
now
a
that's
couple.
a business.
I mean, it is definitely a business. I mean, actually, I should start running these things because it would be huge. And a lot of them happen out in like Riverside area, like that kind of stuff. Swinging is a very army based thing. It's very conservative in its own way. It started in like the 40s with like pilots and stuff like that, where they're like they became like brothers. So they were like, it doesn't matter. You're my brother. Of course you can have my wife. Or like people would go away. So they were just so tightly knit that it made sense. Like, yeah, of course you could sleep with my wife. We love each other. It's fine like that. The swinger community is very like, it's very like pretty hetero. Like women can be bi. That's almost like a given that the women have sex with each other. But it's very like guys can't do that with each other. The first one we went to was at some house in Riverside. You like go and you check in. They verify that there's a man and a woman. That's a big thing too. Usually you don't want to go to ones when single guys are allowed normally because it's just disgusting. And we learned that. We went to one of those. It was disgusting. But we went to this one, and this is like they like trammed you up. There's like a guy with a big Suburban or something. They trammed you up to like this big mansion or whatever. You check in. They had like the living room area and everything like set up like a club, and you usually bring your own liquor. You give it to a bartender. They put your name on it. Like if you bring a bottle of Jameson, Hernandez. Hey, can I get a Jameson? It's in the Hernandez bottle. They bring it. It's like a club.
Wow.
It's set up, and there's 200 people there, 100 people there.
Are people in like in my mind? Everyone's in like tuxes and ball gowns.
No, I mean it's like a club
and like a masquerade mask. No.
Yeah,
it's more lingerie, right? Like women in lingerie.
that could be a thing, but it also is like women just in little dresses and stuff
cute.
like that, and guys in button-up shirts or whatever.
Straightest thing ever.
Yeah.
A lot of black button-ups.
So this first one, the first time we were like, we probably don't want to have sex with anybody. We just we'll go to watch or we'll go to have sex. First one, we went to this like little like room, and there was like some mattresses on the floor and stuff, and so there was like 3 or 4 couples, kind of like just. But this is like still kind of in the open, and like they're kind of like messing around and doing stuff. But of course, you can watch, and you're just like watching, like that's cool. But we went to this one room, and there was like 3 beds across one side of the room, and then like 3 beds across to the other side of the room.
Are they twins? Twin beds?
They were small. Yeah. These aren't like these aren't queens or anything. But like in the corner, the 2 couples were fucking over there.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Mia and my ex, we started to like fool around, and this was like the coolest thing ever. I was like fucking her doggy style, and across from us, another bed, a woman was getting fucked doggy style, and me and her just looking each other in the eyes, which is like the sickest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's like being on drug. I mean, I can't. The first time, I mean, most of the times when you're doing this stuff, it's such a sensory overload that it's like you're on drugs. And of course we would be drinking too, so it all compounds. But there's a club called Freedom Acres that is famous. Yeah,
Sounds like a retirement home.
that's like it's been around forever, but that one's famous. It's still there. $75. It's a huge like playroom and stuff like that. But swinging, I found for some reason through swinging, I found the idea of polyamory because it was fine. It was fun. But some of these people would be like, I wouldn't have a cup of coffee with them. So, you can only fuck people for so long where I'm like, well, I don't really like these people that much. I think I would like, and that, but being in swinging, like just allows you for the idea of a compersion and polyamory. I'm glad that my girlfriend is getting fucked by this guy. I'm glad that she's bringing pleasure and she's having that's like a very polyamorous idea where you're like, oh, I'm happy that she's receiving pleasure, even though it's not for me. And so it opened my idea to where I'm like, well, I'm not really jealous. I like that she's having fun. But I also think that I could just like people outside of all my relationships up until that point. I would be very off and on with them. So strong for like 6-8 months, and I would break up with them, hook up with somebody, and then get back with them. I mean, and I think a lot of people do that, and they don't understand why they do that, or they just cheat. But I found polyamory through that. And so my marriage was open, and I always considered myself polyamorous. But at the time, I was still drinking and like a pretty shitty person. Whatever the bad stereotypes of a polyamorous person are, I was that guy. But near the end of the marriage, she did not want to do it anymore, and she couldn't communicate that. And it was bothering me that she couldn't communicate that verbally. And that's probably comedy is probably the main reason we stopped. She tried, but everything that I was, it was against her nature. So we split up. And so I'm with my girl now. And even then, the whole time when we started dating, I didn't think it would become as serious as we were. But I told her, yeah, I think I'm poly and stuff, but this is nothing. And now I think now I'm like really trying to figure out if this is something I want to do, if this is something I really am, because I just don't want to bother anyone. And people hate it. People hate polyamory.
And I know you're looking at me.
I don't think everybody's this way, but I think a lot more people are this way than they let on. I think like 20% people are like straight, like monogamous people. I think a lot of them understand this and it makes sense to them, but they have like weird fears, or they cheat, or they lie, and they'd rather do that than anything else.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I mean,
Perfect.
when you and your ex were doing your thing, did you go on like co-dates with other couples, like actual dates?
We did that. We had a couple couples that we did that, but like I said, it was never like. Usually, one of the members was like gross. You know what I mean? Like, if a girl's
that's my
hot.
biggest problem with the community. It's like 20% gross.
It is. They are kind of gross, or they're older at the very least. At the time, we were very young to be doing it, because I think a lot of people get to be like 40, 45. They've been married to someone for 10 or 15 years, and they're like, well, I don't want to stop having sex, because generally that's when things die out. So they're more open to the idea of swinging, where like. People, although I think the generation under us, they don't give a shit either. So I think they're probably more open to that kind of stuff.
So being poly now, you would, and if anybody doesn't know, like an open marriage is like you can fuck other people. Poly is like you can have relationships with other people, multiple relationships.
Yes.
Do you, like, what's your like dream sitch?
My dream situation, and I think everybody's dream situation would be, if they thought about it, would be, I think everybody should, or mostly everybody wants a partner, has a primary partner where they share your life with. We go to family events, they're there all the time and everything. But I think that would be very cool to have like 2 or 3 other people that you see like a couple times a year, where it's like, we're going to go out on the date and we'll get a hotel room, and it's like, or even one person where you see once a month or something like that, and they also have a primary, so that all that's taken care of too. One of the main things I'm concerned with being poly now is, and sober, and that's all very important, because I can't imagine having sex with someone new sober.
Right, that's very
or dating
crazy.
sober for me,
especially
for me. I'm like,
a lot of people, most people.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy if I do this. So it feels like a big deal. But a big part of me is I don't want to take advantage of anyone. I want someone to understand exactly what I'm offering them, which is a friendship. A real friendship, and that we have sex too, and that, or even I would like it too, is if even flirty things, where if I had met someone on the internet, on Male Gaze, I always talk about an internet crush, but if I met someone and I said, hey, I think you're funny, I'd love to go out with you, and I would love just the idea of, hey, just that you know that I'm attracted to you and would like to do something, or would like to kiss you, or that kind of thing, and that's my intention. And if you don't feel that way, that's okay, but I just like that. I think most monogamous relationships, you just shut down in such a way, or the given is that this person owns you, and I want to still have an identity outside of that relationship. And so a lot of this stuff is philosophical for me.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very few and far between the kind of people that actually are set up emotionally for this. I think a lot of people can fuck and stuff, but that they won't. They'll understand that I have this person that I'm already committed to. And I don't want to take advantage of a lonely person because this town sucks. So there's a lot of lonely people who would say like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally down, but I know in my heart they're not, that this is going to turn sideways.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot rarer than a lot of people would think it would be.
What does your current girlfriend feel about you being open or poly with someone who's not a woman, though?
Oh, I think she would that would be like not a big deal at all.
Do you think that would be even more preferable?
Yeah,
yes,
honestly,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I think Julie would that would be, to me, she would be like, yeah, of course, yeah, do your thing. I can't give you that. The funny thing too is she's told me that, and it's not like she's gung ho about it, but she's always known this is how I am, and she knows that I love her dearly and I treasure her and value her, and that I would never do anything to put our relationship in jeopardy. And but she was like, I think one of my big concerns is the quality of women you would pick. And then I was like, okay, well, listen. I mean, I famously am in love with Lena Dunham, so she has a point. I mean, you don't want them to be too great, do you? You want them to be. I already have the perfect package. I don't That's not what I'm looking for anymore.
Yeah.
So I think she would much rather me hook up with just have a little boyfriend or something like that.
A little boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever been to a gay sex party or swinger party? I'm just curious.
No, I've never been to like a gay bar like cruising. But yeah, I mean, like I'm not like really trying to fuck like that. But see, also the idea of like being so romantic to a guy seems so foreign to me. So maybe there's something in between. You know what I mean?
I think because you're picturing open mic.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what I'm picturing. I mean, the whole thing's just so foreign.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to be like a guy with a guy. I don't really know how it would be with a guy.
To me, the dreams relationship is like, I'm traditional, so it's like you meet a man, love him, and then he mysteriously dies, and then you meet the next man, and then he mysteriously dies.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm truly poly, where I tweeted, hey, if we were not having kids and we live in LA, we should all date each other for 5 years. Like, I would love to just move on from that. Like Julia, I would love to be like, this is great, because I don't ever see it ending. I mean, we're just so happy together and we have so much fun together. Our families love each other. But I would love to just like put this little life aside and let me do a new one for a little while. But that's not really, my dream, because I'm so poly at my heart, is I would love to have a second wife. Yeah. And I would love to know her family and meet her family.
That is the fucking craziest thing you've ever said.
No, I love Julia's family so much, but to me that's the juice. That's the real meat of the thing is, oh yeah, I would love to meet her family and know that, and to do all the things I do with Julia's family. I'd love to have another Thanksgiving and to watch TV with her and all that stuff. I would love 2 or 3 of those things. Ideally, that will. I don't think that's possible.
Do you not have divorced parents that remarried?
Yeah, they do, but that doesn't, like, I just don't care. I mean, whatever I'm doing, I think I'm more queer in the idea, the way I think about things too. I definitely fuck everyone, but in the way I think about things, I'm like, oh no, if in a perfect world, I'd love to have 3 wives,
multiple families.
And I know there are people who have like thruples and like groups and all that.
Yeah,
I love that shit. I don't have time for it. I'm trying to do comedy too.
Right.
If I had time, I would love that thing. I think that when those people do those things, it's because they have time, and it's basically that kind of stuff is their hobby almost.
Yeah.
And I've already got a thing that I'm doing. Yeah. So
now, how do you feel about polyamory when it comes to having children?
I'm sure it's fine too. It would be the same thing where it's like, oh yeah, Dad's gonna go hang out with his friend. Like, who cares?
Right.
They don't need to know. But also, I don't think I'm gonna have kids. If we do have kids, it would be just like that. Oh, I should get the fuck out of here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a blast. My podcasts are The Male Gaze. It's a weekly news show. Views from the Vista. That's a movie review show. And Who's Your God with Amy Miller. That's a ethics and religion podcast. You find me at Big Hern on Twitter, Hernie on Instagram, and of course, come out to Covina to my hit comedy show, The Comedy Chatterbox Comedy Night. That's every Sunday in Covina at 9:00.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you guys. We love you too.
Bye.
We love you.
Living glam.